All right. Well, welcome everyone to our RICMAR webinar today on best practices for using and obtaining diversity supplements. Our webinar this morning is hosted by the National Coordinating Center of the Resource Centers for Minority Aging Research at UCLA. With funding from the NIA, the Coordinating Center at UCLA works with RICMAR sites to disseminate resources and tools that support early career researchers focused on improving the health and well-being of diverse older adults in the United States. As a land-grant institution, UCLA and the RICMAR Coordinating Center acknowledges our presence on the traditional ancestral territory of the Gabrielino Tongva peoples. We hope you can take a minute to acknowledge the ancestral lands that you are currently on. The staff at the Coordinating Center work really hard to provide you with updated information about opportunities and resources related to aging in diverse communities. So we invite you to visit our website regularly for updates and announcements and to follow us on social media. Just a few reminders before we begin. Please note that we are using Zoom webinar for our session today. This means that we can't see or hear our participants. So in order to really engage our presenter, please take the time to introduce yourselves in the chat. Introduce yourselves to her and to each other by entering your institutional affiliation and if you're from a RICMAR site. Also, please go ahead and pose your questions to our presenter as we go using the Q&A function. We will have a moderated discussion based on the questions that are entered and asked at the end of the talk. You can use our chat function to post comments and interact with other participants. Lastly, we will be distributing today's slides to registered participants and posting the recording of this webinar on our website. Without further ado, it is really my pleasure to introduce Dr. Maria Carranza, who is our speaker this morning. Dr. Carranza manages the NIA's Fellowship and Research Career Development programs, serving as a primary point of contact for applicants, community, and program staff on policies, goals, and processes related to funding opportunities. Dr. Carranza serves as NIH's representative to the NIH Training Advisory Committee and works with NIA divisions to develop, manage, and optimize NIA's fellowships and career development programs. Dr. Carranza received her PhD in chemistry from Baylor University and completed her postdoctoral fellowship at the California Pacific Medical Center Research Institute. Her research focused on drug discovery for central nervous system disorders and cancer. Welcome, Dr. Carranza, and go ahead and begin sharing your slides.
Thank you. One moment, please. Good morning, everyone. Hello and welcome. My name is Maria Carranza, and I am a program official at the National Institute on Aging. Today, we will be discussing best practices for using and obtaining NIA diversity supplements. Here is the outline for today's presentation. We will begin with an overview of diversity supplements. We will review the supplement format and NIA-specific guidance for preparing your application. We will then discuss the allowable costs under diversity supplements and describe NIA's process of submission, receipt, review, and award of applications. Finally, we will go over some useful resources before turning it over to the audience for questions. Please note that the supplementary information on this presentation applies to applications requesting diversity supplements to active NIA grants. The purpose of this presentation is to clarify the application process and is not intended to replace the detailed information in the program announcement. Consistent with NIA's priority to train the next generation of aging researchers, NIA supports a variety of training and career development opportunities for students, early career investigators, and clinician researchers. Today, we will focus on research supplements to promote diversity in health-related research, also known as diversity supplements. What is a diversity supplement? First and foremost, diversity supplements are not grants. Research supplements to promote diversity in health-related research are funds added to an existing grant to recruit and support scientists from underrepresented groups in biomedical research. Any principal investigator with at least 2 years remaining on an eligible grant can apply for a diversity supplement to pay salary, fringe benefits, and modest research support for an eligible candidate. Candidates ranging from high school students through faculty members are eligible to be hired through a diversity supplement. Anyone interested in being hired under a diversity supplement should talk to an NIA-funded PI. Specifically, diversity supplements are administrative supplements to current active NIA research grants to support the training of individuals who seek independent career in aging and geriatrics research, and who are underrepresented in the research workforce. The current program announcement is PA 21071. Please read it carefully. Independent clinical trials are not allowed under this opportunity. However, applicants are permitted to propose research experience in a clinical trial led by a mentor or co-mentor. Applicants are encouraged to use NIH's decision tool to determine whether their human subjects research study meets the NIH definition of a clinical trial. High school students, undergraduate students, baccalaureate and master's degree holders, graduate and health professional students, individuals in postdoctoral training, and investigators developing independent research careers are eligible candidates under a diversity supplement. Candidates must be U.S. citizens or permanent residents. Only U.S. domestic institutions are eligible to apply. For grant type eligibility, please see the program announcement. Generally, a minimum of 2 years should remain on the grant to support an optimal career development experience for the candidate. Diversity supplements are not awarded to grants in a no-cost extension. Eligible candidates for diversity supplements are individuals from underrepresented groups in health-related research, including Blacks or African Americans, Hispanics or Latinos, American Indians or Alaska Natives, Native Hawaiians and other Pacific Islanders, individuals with disabilities, individuals from disadvantaged backgrounds, and women from all of these backgrounds. Diversity supplements are also available to PIs of research grants who are or become disabled and need additional support to accommodate their disability to continue to work on their research project. A statement signed by the PI and an institutional official establishing the eligibility of the candidate for support under this program is required. NIA's diversity supplements are not intended to provide an alternative or additional means of supporting a candidate who is already receiving Public Health Service, PHS, support. Investigators seeking supplement support should inquire about eligibility status based on their eligibility based on their funding status. Candidates currently appointed to an institutional National Research Service Award, NRSA, are eligible once they have completed their appointment. Candidates cannot terminate their NRSA award early to accept a diversity supplement. In addition, individuals may not be transferred to a supplement to increase the availability of funds to the parent grant for other uses. Removing an individual from current PHS funding does not confer eligibility for support. Candidates receiving continuing PHS funding, including the parent grant, are not eligible to receive a supplement. short-term support from the parent grant may be allowable. An important consideration will begin in fiscal year 22 for candidates who are currently receiving P30 pilot funds. If a candidate is deriving salary from P30 pilot funds, they may be considered for a diversity supplement, and if approved, funding will begin when the P30 funding ends. But in cases where a candidate is not deriving salary from P30 pilot funds, a diversity supplement may be submitted for non-duplicative costs, and if approved, funding may be concurrent with pilot funds. Additional eligibility criteria for investigators developing independent research careers include having a doctoral degree, being beyond the level of a research trainee, and typically be employed at the junior faculty level as an instructor or assistant professor. An individual who has received prior funding from NIH as an independent PI on a research grant, as the project leader or on a component of a program project or center grant, or as PI on an individual research career development or K award, is not eligible for a diversity supplement. Individuals appointed as scholars or on institutional career development awards are eligible for this supplement following the completion of their expected career development appointment. Let's review the supplement format and NIA-specific guidance on preparing your application. PIs should read the program announcement under application and submission information to identify what to include in a supplement request and work with their business office to make sure the correct forms are used. Please follow the guidelines for preparation of the application described in the funding announcement. NIA-specific guidelines require a research strategy, which NIA restricts to 5 pages, a candidate biosketch, a biosketch for the mentor or mentors, a candidate eligibility statement signed by the PI and an institutional official, candidate transcripts if they are high school, undergraduate, post-baccalaureate, post-master's degree, or graduate students, and letters of support, which are optional. Let's talk about the research strategy. The 5-page research strategy section should include a 1-page or less summary or abstract of the funded grant or project, and a research training activities and career development plan. This is very important. The plan should describe how the research and career development activities will enhance the candidate's research potential and foster the aging-related research capabilities of the candidate. The research plan should be specific and appropriate for the stage of the individual's professional development, enhancing the individual's research potential while furthering the individual's ability to pursue a research career. The training plan should be specific and tailored to the individual needs of the candidate. The plan should describe in detail the training activities planned for the candidate, particularly those that enhance their career development and training above and beyond what they could have achieved without the diversity supplement. Specifically, the research training activities and career development plan should describe how the proposed research and research training activities relate to the research goals and objectives of the parent grant. Include an integrated timeline of research and career development activities, delineating specific research milestones consistent with the award period. Provide detailed plans for direct communication with all mentors and peers, as well as learning opportunities conducted in other settings. For example, how often will meetings occur, and what skills, scientific technical expertise, and professional acumen will be acquired by the candidate through those interactions. Demonstrate a bona fide need for and benefit to the candidate from the diversity supplement, and how the supplement adds to any resources or experiences already planned for the candidate, such as a new mentor, a change in the quality or amount of training, or relief from other non-research responsibilities. For center grants, describe any review process the study has received in the center prior to the application. Include any IRB or IACUC approval appropriate to the proposed work. Diversity supplement programs are particularly suited to candidates who, because of circumstance, now need extra training and resources to make them competitive for general award programs. Postdoctoral and junior faculty applicants should clearly articulate why the diversity supplement is a particularly appropriate mechanism compared to the available alternatives at their career stage, and what their plans will be beyond the supplement funding. The candidate is encouraged to consider funding through the Diversity Supplement Program as one of a spectrum of funding sources, including predoctoral and postdoctoral awards, and career development and small grants that may further enhance research independence and career advancement. The candidate biosketch should include an up to one-page candidate statement, typically in Section A. The statement should describe the candidate's future goals in research and how the proposed training will facilitate their immediate, near-term, and long-range career goals. The mentor 5-page biosketch, as in an R01, should include a description of the mentor's track record and mentoring goals specific to the candidate. A principal investigator who has received prior diversity supplement funding should describe the outcome or progress of the supplements, including the diversity scholar's current status. If other investigators contribute to the research mentoring, describe their role and include a biosketch. The application should include a signed statement from the PI and an institutional official, establishing the candidate's eligibility for support under this program. The statement must include clearly presented information on citizenship, information on the nature of the candidate's disability, circumstances, background, or characteristics that confer eligibility under this program consistent with the Notice of NIH's interest in diversity. A description of any current or previous PHS grant support the candidate may have received, including start and end dates. If appropriate, include a statement indicating that the candidate has not received any current or previous PHS support. As a reminder, candidates receiving continuing PHS support are not eligible. A copy of the most recent official transcripts should be provided if the candidate is a high school, undergraduate, post-baccalaureate, postmaster's degree, or graduate student. Please block out all digits of any Social Security number. Letters of support are optional, but may be included in the supplement application. Generally, letters of support are expected when resources or individuals who are not part of the parent grant will contribute to the supplement award. For research conducted at a site other than the grantee institution, a signed letter from the other institution where the research will be conducted should be provided. 2 sets of budgets will be needed, one for the parent institution and one for the subcontract institution. For a supplement based on disability, the institution should indicate what, if any, reasonable accommodations the institution has supported or plans to provide, along with a full description of how any additional support for accommodation would be used. Let's take a look at the allowable costs and other provisions for diversity supplements. Salary and fringe benefits, supplies and travel, and tuition where applicable are the only budget categories allowable for diversity supplements. The career level of the candidate determines the budget caps for these categories. No other direct cost line items in the budget will be covered per the program announcement. Research costs are generally expected to be supported from the parent grant. Typical supplement awards are for 2 years or less. The only exception is short-term support for investigators developing independent research careers who may request to work full-time for 3 to 5 months each year over a maximum period of 4 years. In all cases, the research and training proposed should be appropriate for the time requested, with stated milestones and mentoring and a career development plan. Examples of unallowable costs are equipment, except for when funds are requested to provide reasonable accommodations for a candidate with a disability. Publication costs, consultant services, automatic data processing ADP computer services, equipment or facility rental, user fees, software and training, technical support, human subjects payments, gift cards, transportation services, or transcription services, excuse me. Data network recharge, computing and communication device services, memberships, animal costs, lab fees, sample analysis fees, mailing, postage, printing fees, registration fees, participant incentives, tuition for postdocs or investigators, health insurance not included in fringe benefits, and telecommunication equipment or services. No other direct cost line items in the budget will be covered per the program announcement. Research costs are generally expected to be supported from the parent grant. Now let's review the submission and receipt of applications. Applications must be submitted electronically, as described in the program announcement. Applicants are strongly encouraged to inform NIA training and their program officer prior to and immediately after submitting. NIA accepts applications on a rolling basis and reviews applications monthly, except in summer. The last date to submit a diversity supplement for consideration in fiscal year 21 is June 14th. Applications submitted by June 14th will be reviewed in July, and selected applications will be funded in September. Applications received after June 14th, 2021 will be reviewed for consideration in fiscal year 22. A parent grant may support more than one individual on a diversity supplement. A separate application is required for each candidate, and each application will be evaluated separately. Applications for candidates who have received support from a prior diversity supplement award should present strong justification for why additional supplement support remains critical. Unsuccessful applications may be resubmitted once. The resubmission may include a one-page summary of the changes in the application since the original submission, and one additional page in the research strategy section to provide additional details if so requested. Finally, let's look at the review and award of applications. The submitted application package is reviewed within the NIA Division of Extramural Activities. First, NIA program staff reviews applications for completeness. Incomplete applications may be returned without review. Review is then conducted by the NIA Supplements Committee, with representatives from the Division of Extramural Activities, NIA Office of Special Populations, and each NIA Scientific Program Division. The review outcome includes written feedback, usually within 2 months of receipt of the application. In review, applications may also be deferred for more information, such as more detailed on a planned research project, or clarification on the career goals of an applicant. Funding decisions are generally dependent on the merit of the application and the proposed project activities, with particular emphasis on the career development and mentorship plan, the potential for continued research progress of the candidate, and the availability of funds. Generally, new applications are reviewed 6 to 9 weeks after submission, while amended applications are reviewed 5 to 7 weeks after submission. Here are some useful resources. First, the current active program announcement, PA 21071. Please read it carefully. The NIA Diversity and Reentry Supplement Program Guidelines webpage is also an excellent resource for all of these details considered here. The annotated form set for NIH grant applications, Forms F series. And of course, you are always welcome to contact us via email at niatraining@mail.nih.gov. And now we will turn it over to the audience for questions. Dr. Guerrero?
Thank you, Dr. Carranza, for that very thorough presentation. I'm sure that folks have questions that have emerged as they heard you speak. So feel free to enter your questions in the Q&A function. Some questions have already been posed, so I'll go ahead and present those to you. So the first question was really around defining disability and or disadvantaged backgrounds. I think we can put the notice of NIH's interest in diversity. I'll put that in the chat now for folks to review. But any comments that you can give us regarding those definitions?
Correct. Very specific details of those definitions are in NIH's Notice of Interest in Diversity and the program announcement. For any of those categories, the candidate must self-identify, as being a member of either an underrepresented group or disadvantaged background or disability. And the documentation required is detailed in the program announcement and NIH's notice. However, that may be presented to the institution so that the institution can prepare the eligibility statement. NIH does not require original documents that the institution may have used to determine that eligibility. So please work with your institution.
Thank you. Another question is, you stated that supplements are for U.S. Citizens or permanent residents. Are there any NIA grants for international students?
Yes, there are. At the graduate student level, we have the F99/R00, we have the F99/K00 award, which is a transition award for graduate students moving into their postdoctoral training. That opportunity does not have a citizenship requirement. For postdocs transitioning to academic careers, we have the K99/R00 opportunity, which again is a transition award, which also does not have a citizenship requirement. By the way, other research grants, R01s, R03s, R21s, none of them have a citizenship requirement.
Excellent, thank you. Can multiple supplements be submitted for one trainee if the projects are different and submitted to different institutes?
So NIA will only consider one supplement for one candidate at a time. The candidate may submit for a second supplement through NIA if there is strong justification for it, and it may be considered for award. You're encouraged to work with other institutes to inquire on their guidelines, but these are NIA's guidelines.
Excellent, thank you.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. One additional consideration to that. Let us remember that there is an effort level requirement for the candidate. So let us remember that full-time or at least 75% effort is required on one supplement. So unless you can justify your effort in a second supplement, then you should also consider that before applying.
Excellent. Do the PI and the candidate have to be from the same institution, or do they have to show proof of a prior working relationship before submitting an application?
No, that is not required. So let me go back to that slide for just one moment. So research by a candidate may be conducted at a site other than the grantee institution. That would be considered a subcontract candidate. And that is allowed, and two sets of budgets would be required, one for the parent institution and one for the subcontract institution. This usually happens when the candidate is working, this usually happens when the parent grant is a multiple PI grant, where one of the PIs is working at a different institution and wants their candidate to work with one of the other multiple PIs on the grant. But that is not the only case. So this is allowed, and it's a matter of inquiring with your program official and NIA training before submitting your application to make sure that the right documentation is submitted.
Excellent, thank you. What does it mean to pursue other grants like an F-31 when you can't receive funding at the same time?
But that does not mean that developing the specific aims for an F-31 cannot be your goal while you're working on your diversity supplement. That's what we mean by that. So that you, in your supplement application, you describe the steps and goals that you will be working towards, say towards submitting an F-31 application by the end of the supplement award. And that is actually, very favorably viewed upon in the review of applications, that the candidate presents clear plans for the future after the diversity supplement ends.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Carranza. On that same vein, there was a question posed about the kinds of projects that are proposed through the diversity supplement and how different the aims for the supplement have to be in comparison to those of the primary grant. And I think you've alluded to this already, right? About that the supplement is really about the candidate's development using the infrastructure of the parent grant. But could you describe that a little bit more for our audience?
Of course. It will all depend on the career level of the candidate. If it's a high school student or an undergraduate student, someone earlier in their career stage, it is more likely that they will be working on something very closely aligned or immediately closely aligned to the specific aims of the parent grant. However, as the candidate grows in their career development and starts coming up with their own hypotheses, still within the scope of the parent grant, then it's up to them to propose a project that continues to be within the scope of the parent grant, but that is examining a new and potentially relevant hypothesis. So there is flexibility. And the answer there is to consult with your scientific program official. That's the scientific program official assigned to the parent grant to make sure that something is within the scope of the parent grant, but still original to the candidate, if that is the case.
Thank you for that. There was a question posed regarding the parent grants and that supplements are limited to grants that have at least 2 years left, right, in funding. So if the PI knows that he or she will ask for a no-cost extension, would the extension time count as time that the grant is still active?
It does not. So if a parent grant has only 1 year left, for example, then they may be more suited for funding an earlier stage trainee, such as a high school student or an undergraduate student or a post-baccalaureate student whose term could be 1 year or less.
Got it. What about in terms of the candidates and the application that is submitted? You mentioned that a transcript, especially if it's a student that's being proposed for a supplement, how are the candidates' transcripts a factor in the review of the application?
They are certainly not the most important or deciding factor. However, they are used to see the career, to see they are used to consider the applicant's commitment to their education, but they are certainly not a deciding factor. And in fact, many candidates submit their transcripts, and there are some things that require some explanation, a dip in grades here or there. That's what the candidate statement is for, and the candidates explain, take ownership and responsibility for that and explain it. And that's all. There is no, additional consideration. It is really just to establish, the candidate's commitment to their education. And transcripts are only required for students, not for postdoctoral associates or investigators.
Excellent. Thank you. There are a couple sort of logistical questions on the NIH side that our audience has. So the first one is, if you could again remind us about the submission deadlines for the supplements. My understanding is that these are reviewed on a rolling basis and that they don't adhere to specific deadlines like other NIH grants. And also, who are the reviewers of these diversity supplements?
Correct. Thank you, Dr. Guerrero. That is correct. NIA accepts and reviews applications on a rolling basis, and the review applications are in a monthly cycle, except in the summer. This is for many reasons, including the fact that the fiscal year ends, immediately after the summer. So after June, so that's why we request applications that wish to be considered for funding still in fiscal year 21 to be submitted this year by June 14th, but for future years as early as possible, before the end of the fiscal year. Excuse me. And then the NIA diversity supplements are reviewed internally within the NIA Division of Extramural Activities. And there is an NIA Supplements Committee that is composed of representatives from the Division of Extramural Activities, the NIA Office of Special Populations, and each of the NIA Scientific Program divisions. So it is a committee composed of approximately 8 to 10 members, and they are the reviewers of the applications. The program official assigned to the award also submits a primary review, which is then used during the review meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Carranza. So I think folks are getting a real sense of sort of the mechanism, what is needed, the timeline involved. I think what we need perhaps is another review from you about how to obtain these. So you and I had talked previous to today about how diversity supplements are not grants. A candidate can't just request a supplement directly, right? Can you talk to us a little bit more about how a trainee or a scientist or a scholar would approach an investigator, a PI with an eligible grant for a diversity supplement, or the other way around, how a PI would potentially consider obtaining a diversity supplement for a scholar, a scientist, or a trainee?
Very well. So there are multiple layers, I guess, to answer your question, Dr. Guerrero. Let's begin with the case of the candidate themselves, wishing to be supported by the diversity supplement, which by now, hopefully it's clear that the diversity supplement really only provides salary, salary fringe benefits and a very modest amount in research support. So what the diversity supplement provides is protected research time for the candidate. That's it. All of the research costs are generally supported by the parent grant. So if a candidate, so it depends again on the career level of the candidate. So let's think, for example, of a graduate student, a postdoctoral associate, or an investigator. right? So I would encourage them to, first of all, identify an NIA-funded PI. It may be your own PI, but it may be one of the collaborators of your PI, a PI from one of the RICMAR centers that is not your PI. There are many opportunities. So first of all, verify that there is a PI around you whom you trust and whom you think would be a good mentor because you have some things to learn, from them in terms of skills, methodologies, or just different, it is, the sky is the limit. So identify a PI with an active NIA grant, right? And then give some thought about what it is that you would like to accomplish. You can have a conversation with them, asking them, is there a part of one of your specific aims that you would like to explore, but that you simply do not have the capacity at the moment to explore, and that I could take on for you and hopefully develop for you? And from that conversation, ideas may arise. This is if you're not a person already working in the laboratory of this PI who may, and you are already aware of what's being investigated, right? And then I would encourage you to draft a one-page, draft of your ideas for what the research training activities and career development plan may be. Candidates often write this section themselves, depending on their career level, and of course with the input of the PI. So keys here is that the research plan be specific and appropriate for the stage of the individual's professional development, and that the training plan be specific and tailored, and that it be clear what is the advantage to the candidate for working on a diversity supplement. Okay, so I would encourage, that's what I would encourage a candidate wishing to be supported by a diversity supplement to do. In terms of the PI, if I am a PI with an active NIA grant with at least 2 years left on that grant, PIs are always encouraged to promote diversity in health-related research by identifying eligible candidates. And eligible candidates at any stage. Today has become clear that it could be high school students from your university's, high school outreach program, or or undergraduate students, or post-baccalaureate students. So candidates at any stage, really, that could benefit from the research training and career development opportunities in your laboratory, that could be in charge of a project that is within the scope of the parent grant. PIs are encouraged to identify those students if they are not already part of your research group or part of your department or part of your center. So identifying as an eligible candidate would be ideal for a PI who is interested.
Excellent. Thank you so much for clarifying that. Now, in terms of nitty-gritty, we received a question about timing of this, right? So could you clarify, if a parent grant is a 5-year grant and it's in its final year, right? The parent grant will start year 4, for example, in July of this year. Can they still submit a diversity supplement by the June 14th deadline to work with a candidate in the final year?
Yes, they can, but the project should be for 1 year, for whatever time is left on the parent grant, not including the no-cost extension that grant may or may not enter into.
Excellent, excellent, thank you. There was a question about transition to the ROO, the R00. Can one apply for a diversity supplement once the R00 phase begin?
So I guess, do they mean for a diversity supplement for themselves or for a candidate, right? So someone who is already a PI on a K99 and then is transitioning to an R00 is not eligible for a diversity supplement for themselves because they are already a PI on a career development grant. However, the R00 mechanism is eligible to apply for a diversity supplement for someone else, for a candidate? So the answer is yes. The R00 mechanism allows you to apply for a diversity supplement for a candidate, an eligible candidate.
Excellent, thank you. There was another question going back to the candidates' eligibility, and the question was regarding women. Is just being a woman by itself a criteria for eligibility?
Being a woman and a member of categories A, B, and C makes you eligible.
Thank you for clarifying that.
And just to go back to the previous question, here is a table, and this is just a reflection of the list of research awards that are eligible to apply for a diversity supplement that is on the program announcement. And the R00, as you can see here, is one of those. So the answer is yes, R00s can request a diversity supplement for someone else, for a candidate.
I think this pretty much answers most of the questions that have been submitted through our Q&A function. Anna, do we have the opportunity to have folks be unmuted and to raise their hands to ask a question of Dr. Carranza in the last couple minutes that we have together?
Yeah, if folks would like to verbally ask your question, you can use the raise hand feature in the Zoom platform, and we can allow you to talk.
Anna, can you see those on your end?
Yes, I am.
All right, while you manage the hand raised folks, and I'll just respond to the question that was posted in the chat about the slides from today. All registered participants for today's webinar will receive a copy of the slides via email after the webinar today.
And again, I would like to clarify that the information on these slides is not meant to replace the detailed information that is in the program announcement and the NIA Diversity Supplements website. So please refer to those.
Thank you. I think I see Preeti's hand up.
Yeah, thank you for this excellent presentation and for the opportunity to ask questions. I've spent a considerable amount of time looking into this, and I feel like my struggle and challenge to getting a research position is extremely challenging. I think much more, if not less, than some of the specified criteria listed in A, B, and C, which I don't fit in. But in terms of challenge, perhaps it's a lot more. So is it time to look into individual specific criteria as opposed to a set criteria and applying a one paint picture to everybody, because not everybody meets those definitions of diversity, but that does not mean that their circumstances do not make them eligible. It's just like either you fit into this definition and you qualify or you don't. But my issue is my challenges are a lot more. I feel like some of my colleagues have been able to apply to those who may not have as much struggle that I've had in my career getting a research position. So is it time to update the definition of diversity?
Thank you for your question, and we hear you. At the same time, we are bound by federal guidelines and definitions, and perhaps it is time to review those, but that is not up to us at this moment. So I would encourage you to submit these comments to the general NIH contact information or contact line, so that the NIH can hear your voice and work towards that. But we are bound by federal definitions. And I would also encourage you to email privately so that your circumstances may be reviewed, because there might be other types of grants, or types of opportunities, not necessarily the diversity supplement, that you may qualify for with the help of a program official at the NIA. So I would welcome an email from you so that we can discuss your situation specifically.
Excellent.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Carranza, for a wonderful presentation today. I am sure this has been very informative and useful and helpful for all of our attendees. I hope that folks reach out to you, reach out to the training email that you shared with us to ask their individual questions. And I expect lots of supplements coming your way, maybe not by the June 14th deadline, but hopefully soon, as folks become more comfortable and learn more about this mechanism. So thank you.
Absolutely. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you, Dr. Guerrero and Anna, for, first of all, for inviting me to provide this webinar and for all your help and assistance and for your commitment to helping your RICMAR scholars. So I want to make sure that I acknowledge you and thank you for this opportunity as well.
Excellent. We will be sending out a brief evaluation at the end of this presentation to all of our participants. We welcome your feedback. We read your comments. We take them seriously. So feel free to submit your evaluations sooner rather than later. And again, thank you, everyone. Have a great Friday. Stay in touch with us in the RICMAR Coordinating Center, and see you soon, hopefully at our next webinar. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.